So good evening everyone. I am Dr. Omkar Sangita Dilipra Sonone and today's discussion will be about lymphomas and leukemias. So let's start our discussion without any further delay. So as we all know that lymphomas and leukemias have always been a very important part of our examinations. So there can be either questions from pathology or the medicine aspect of these disorders. So I'll be covering today the pathology aspect of these disorders. Okay. So let's start our discussion for today, where we will be actually talking about the peripheral blood smear or the bone marrow picture of these disorders mainly, right? So let's start. Just a minute. So we are just left with the WBC disorders. For other all parts of hematology or any other parts of pathology, you can refer to all the previous sessions. Okay. So starting with WBC disorders, guys, WBC or leukocytes, they can either increase in number, that would be known as leukocytosis, or they can decrease in number, that would be known as leukopenia. Leukopenia would be seen commonly with chronic diseases or with some infections or with conditions like when a person is immunosuppressed whenever he is taking steroids vagara. Okay, so that these are the two conditions. Whereas leukocytosis or increase in WBCs, that can be seen in various conditions, and the most important being the WBC malignancies, and the most important ones are WBC malignancies. There are two types of WBC malignancies, that is leukemias and lymphomas. Okay, how to classify actually how to classify a leukemia and a lymphoma? So the major two differences that you need to remember in a leukemia and a lymphoma would be, first of all, leukemias will arise from the bone marrow. Leukemias will arise from the bone marrow. Whereas lymphomas, they can arise from any other lymphoid tissue also apart from the bone marrow. Lymphomas can arise also from any other lymphoid tissue, okay, other than the bone marrow. Important. Second feature that you need to know, that the leukemias, they do not form a mass. Leukemias do not form a mass, whereas on the other hand, lymphomas generally form a mass. Lymphomas, they generally form a mass. These are the two important differences. If they arise from bone marrow only, these are leukemias. If they can arise from any other tissue apart from the bone marrow also, which is a lymphoid tissue, these are lymphomas. If they do not form a mass, these are leukemias. If they form a mass, these are lymphomas. Right? I hope this is clear to you. Then these leukemias, let's start first of all with leukemias. Okay, so leukemias are generally classified mainly into acute leukemias and chronic leukemias. Okay, so important one, leukemias are generally classified into acute leukemias and chronic leukemias. So acute leukemias would be the ones where the immature cells, okay, either lymphoid cells or myeloid cells. So the immature cells, that is your blast, they are more than 20% in number. Whenever these are more than 20% blast, it is an acute leukemia. Whereas whenever the blast percentage is less than 20%, it is a chronic leukemia. Blast percentage more than 20%, acute leukemia. Blast percentage less than 20%, chronic leukemia. Okay, these are the two important, this is the first important classification that you need to remember. Other than this, leukemias will also be classified based on their origin. If they arise from the myeloid lineage, they would be called as myeloid leukemia. And if they arise from the lymphoid lineage, they would be called as a lymphoid leukemia. I hope this is clear. Now let's start them one by one. First of all, we'll talk about is ALL, that is acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Okay, that is acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Important thing to be remembered is ALL or acute lymphoblastic leukemia is the most common malignancy of childhood. Please remember, ALL is the most common malignancy in which age group? In childhood. So if they ask you a question, which is the most common malignancy of childhood? Answer should be ALL or acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Right? Now, how to actually determine whether it is a lymphoblastic leukemia or a myeloid leukemia? For that purpose, you will take a peripheral blood smear of a person. Okay, you will take the PBS, peripheral blood smear of that particular patient, and on a peripheral blood smear, this is a peripheral blood smear of ALL. Here you can see there is increased number of lymphocytes or lymphoblasts. Okay, please remember, here the number of lymphocytes have been increased. Normally we have seen already how to actually recognize a lymphocyte. Okay, lymphocyte generally has a larger nucleus without the presence of granules. Lymphocytes has a larger nucleus without the presence of granules. So here we can see an increased number of lymphocytes. Usually in a particular peripheral blood smear, we can see only 2 to 3 lymphocytes. But here there are increased number of lymphocytes. That means it is a WBC malignancy. And as these are lymphoid cells, it would mostly be either ALL or it can be CLL. Okay, it can be either ALL or CLL. We can it is not very much specific. Either it is an acute lymphoblastic leukemia or a chronic lymphocytic leukemia. So for that matter, you actually need to remember the age groups, because acute leukemias, they can occur in any age group, but ALL commonly occurs in childhood. ALL commonly occurs in childhood. On the other hand, CLL, it commonly occurs in the elderly. CLL commonly occurs in the elderly. Important feature. Right? So here you can recognize the PPS. Increased number of lymphoblasts can be seen. Increased number of lymphoblasts are usually seen. This was a picture which came in FMG also, FMG August and FMG June, both sessions. So now usually how to make sure that the cells seen over here are lymphoid cells only. So for that purpose, we use the stain. These lymphoid cells would be important PAS positive, periodic acid shift. Periodic acid shift stain would be used. So lymphoid cells would be PAS positive. ALL would be PAS positive, important. Then now we are sure that it is a lymphoid leukemia, right? So we need to remember whether it is a B cell leukemia or it is a T cell leukemia. Okay, so we need to recognize now whether it is a B cell or a T cell leukemia. For that, we have the markers for these specific cells. So the pan B cell marker is CD19. Pan B cell marker is CD19. This question have been asked. Please remember this. Okay, pan B cell marker is CD19. On the other hand, pan T cell marker is CD3. Pan T cell marker is CD3. These are the markers which will be positive for all the B cells and all the T cells. For all B cells, they would be CD19 positive, and all the T cells would be CD3 positive, right? Apart from this, B cells would have other markers which will range from CD19 to CD25, whereas T cells will have other markers which will range from CD1 to CD8. Okay, please remember this. So this is the picture about ALL, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, most common malignancy of childhood. Then now we go on to AML, that is acute myeloid leukemia. When we talk about acute myeloid leukemia, it is usually seen in adults. AML is common in adults or elderly. Okay. Now the stain which is positive for myeloid cells or the stain which is positive for AML cells, it is, please remember, it is myeloperoxidase stain. Okay, so myeloid cells would be MPO positive, myeloperoxidase positive. Myeloid cells or AML cells would be MPO or myeloperoxidase positive. Important feature. Next, now as we all know, how to actually first of all recognize AML. So first of all, this is a peripheral blood smear of AML. This is a peripheral blood smear of AML, and it has a very characteristic feature, rather a very important hallmark feature. Okay, first of all, these are the cells with multiple nucleoli. First, myeloid cells have multiple nucleoli. First thing. Second thing, they will also have presence of granules. Okay, they will have multiple nucleoli. Second, they will also have presence of granules. And the third most important thing are these eosinophilic rods seen in the cytoplasm. These eosinophilic rods seen in the cytoplasm of a myeloid cell, these are known as OR rods. These are known as OR rods. And please remember, important, OR rods are a hallmark or the most specific feature of AML. OR rods are the hallmark or the most specific feature of AML, acute myeloid leukemia. Right? Important. Then this AML, acute myeloid leukemia, is of 8 types, ranging from M0 till M7. Now questions can be asked, which is the most common type of AML? So please remember, the most common type of AML is M2AML. Most common type of AML is M2AML. That is AML with maturation. Most common type of AML is M2AML. Important. Next, they can ask you which among the types of AML is commonly associated with DIC, that is disseminated intravascular coagulation. We have studied this earlier. So the most common type of AML associated with DIC is M3AML. Most common AML associated with DIC is M3AML, also known as acute promyelocytic leukemia. Acute promyelocytic leukemia. Then a very important question, which type of AML is associated with Down syndrome? This is a question which has been asked already. So the type of AML associated with Down syndrome is M7 AML. The type of AML associated with Down syndrome is M7 AML, that is acute megakaryocytic leukemia. Okay, with DIC it is M3, with Downs it is M7, most common is M2. Then the AML associated with gum hyperplasia, not a very regular question but can be asked. So the AML associated with gum hyperplasia is M4 or M5. AML associated with gum hyperplasia would be M4 or M5. Now you need to remember a very important thing from AML, and that is a translocation. Okay, so one type of AML has a very characteristic translocation, that is translocation 1517, that is known as translocation 1517. This translocation 1517 is actually also known as PML RARA translocation. This is also known as PML RARA translocation. Please remember, translocation 1517 is also known as PML RARA translocation. Okay, and it is the cause, or it is the reason behind M3 variety of AML. Okay, it would lead to M3 variety of AML, that is acute promyelocytic leukemia. So translocation 1517, also known as PML RARA translocation, will lead to M3 AML. Okay, I hope this is clear. Moving further, so ALL or AML के बारे में you need to remember important points. ALL is PAS positive, AML is MPO positive. Okay, ALL will usually have increased lymphoblastic picture in the peripheral blood smear, whereas AML will have a very characteristic feature along with increased myeloid cells in the peripheral blood smear. These myeloid cells will have the hallmark feature of or rods in the cytoplasm. Right? Moving further now, talking about chronic leukemias. Okay, chronic leukemias means the blast cell percentage is less than 20%. Chronic leukemias means the blast cell percentage is less than 20%. Okay, chronic leukemias are usually seen in either adults or elderly. They are either seen in adults or elderly, and they have a better prognosis as compared to acute leukemias. Chronic leukemias have a better prognosis as compared to acute leukemias. Important thing. So let's start discussing about chronic leukemias. The first one that we need to discuss is CML, also known as chronic myeloid leukemia. CML or chronic myeloid leukemia. Okay, and it is the most common leukemia in adults. Important. It is the most common leukemia in adults. So which is the most common leukemia in adults? CML. Which is the most common leukemia in adults? CML. And which is the most common leukemia in children? ALL. Which is the most common leukemia in children? ALL. Important points that you need to remember. Next, the mutation which is seen in CML is very important. Please remember, the mutation seen in CML is actually a translocation, and this translocation is known as translocation 922. This translocation is translocation 922, also known as BCR-ABL gene translocation, also known as BCR-ABL gene translocation, and this translocated chromosome is also known as Philadelphia chromosome. This translocated chromosome is also known as Philadelphia chromosome. So this is very much important, guys. Please remember, the mutation seen in CML is translocation 922, also known as BCR-ABL gene translocation, and the chromosome is known as Philadelphia chromosome. Okay, this is very much important. Moving further now, usually in chronic leukemias, what happens? Chronic leukemias, it can transform to acute leukemias also. And when these chronic leukemias, they can transform to acute leukemias, they will have a poorer prognosis. Okay, and this transformation is usually seen in 3 phases. Okay, first is the chronic phase. Okay, so chronic phase mein the blast cell percentage is less than 10%. If blast cells are less than 10%, it is considered a chronic phase. If blast cell is less than 10%, it is considered a chronic phase. If blast cells are between 10 to 19%, it is the accelerated phase. If blast cell is between 10 to 19%, it is a accelerated phase. And when blast cells are more than 20%, it is known as blast crisis. When blast cells become more than 20% in a chronic leukemia, this condition is known as blast crisis. Okay, this is how a transformation from a chronic leukemia to an acute leukemia would occur. This is the peripheral blood smear over here that you can see in a chronic myeloid leukemia. So a peripheral blood smear of a chronic myeloid leukemia will show increased number of myeloid cells. Okay, and myeloid cells, as we have already discussed, they have multi-lobed nucleus usually along with presence of granules. They have multi-lobed nucleus along with presence of granules. So all these myeloid cells will proliferate, and excessive number of myeloid cells would be seen on a peripheral blood smear of chronic myeloid leukemia. Which translocation? Translocation 922 or BCR-ABL gene translocation. Moving further to another type of chronic leukemia, it is classified as a chronic leukemia, and this condition is known as polycythemia vera. This condition is known as polycythemia vera. So usually poly means many, cytes means cells. So here the number of WBCs increase, the number of RBCs increase, as well as the number of platelets also increase. So we tend to confuse it that only RBCs increase. No, please remember, in polycythemia vera, there is increase in all the cells. That is, there is pancytosis, increase in the number of WBCs, RBCs, as well as platelets. Okay, and all the cells, as they all of them would be increased, this would lead to hyperviscosity of the blood. This would lead to hyperviscosity of the blood. And this hyperviscosity of blood can land up the patient in hypoxia or thrombosis. This hyperviscosity can land up the patient in hypoxia or thrombosis. Usually hepatic vein thrombosis, and it would lead to Budd-Chiari syndrome. I hope this is fine. And a mutation is to be remembered from polycythemia vera, and that is the most important, I feel. Okay, the mutation that you need to remember is the JAK2 mutation. The mutation that you need to remember is the JAK2 mutation. So the mutation seen in polycythemia vera is JAK2 mutation. Right. The next type of chronic leukemia now that you need to remember is essential thrombocytosis. By the name itself, it is very clear. It is just increase in the number of platelets. Only increase in the number of platelets. This is known as essential thrombocytosis. When there is increase in the number of platelets to more than 4 lakh per cubic millimeter, when the platelet number increases to more than 4 lakh per cubic millimeter, this condition is known as essential thrombocytosis. This condition is known as essential thrombocytosis. And essential thrombocytosis, unlike other chronic leukemias which are usually seen in elderly, this essential thrombocytosis is seen in middle-aged females. This is seen in middle-aged females. Whereas essential thrombocytosis as such is an asymptomatic condition. Here the patient need not require any treatment. But in case the patient experiences some symptoms, then an antiplatelet drug like aspirin can be given in cases of essential thrombocytosis. Moving on to the next chronic leukemia. There were 4 types that we studied. First was CML, second was polycythemia vera, third is essential thrombocytosis, and the fourth that we'll study now is myelofibrosis. Important feature about myelofibrosis that we have already discussed prior, it was what? Myelofibrosis ka peripheral blood smear will show us teardrop cells. Myelofibrosis ka peripheral blood smear will show us teardrop cells. So this is the peripheral blood smear of myelofibrosis, and it is showing us these teardrop cells. Okay, these all are teardrop cells. Along with that, we can find a leukoerythroblastic picture. What do we mean by leukoerythroblastic picture? So please remember, we will find immature RBCs as well as immature WBCs in this peripheral blood smear. So in cases of myelofibrosis, 2 important PBS findings would be seen. First are teardrop cells. Most characteristic are teardrop cells. And second is a leukoerythroblastic picture, increase in number of immature WBCs and immature RBCs. Myelofibrosis or primary myelofibrosis is a condition which is commonly seen in elderly individuals, and the patient presents to you with massive splenomegaly. Okay, so these are the features that you need to remember about chronic leukemias. One more chronic leukemia is left. We will discuss it later. So first of all, talking about now lymphomas. As we have already discussed, lymphomas are also a WBC malignancy, but important, they can arise from any other lymphoid tissue apart from the bone marrow also. And second feature, they usually form a mass, right? These are the 2 features about lymphomas. Lymphomas are classified as Hodgkin's lymphoma and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So first of all, talking about Hodgkin's lymphoma, right? So usually Hodgkin's lymphoma, guys, the most common age group that Hodgkin's lymphoma affect, it is 15 to 30 years of age group, and more than 45 years of age group. So usually Hodgkin's lymphoma is common in two age groups, 15 to 30 years of age group and more than 45 years of age group. Therefore, it has a bimodal presentation. Next, Hodgkin's lymphoma usually originate or they arise from mature B cells. Hodgkin's lymphoma usually originate from the mature B cells or the mature B lymphocytes. Important one, right? Then talking about important point about Hodgkin's lymphoma, the most common infection associated with Hodgkin's lymphoma would be EBV or Epstein-Barr virus infection. Most common infection associated with Hodgkin's lymphoma is EBV or Epstein-Barr virus infection, right? We have discussed this already. Now talking about the malignant cells. If we take a peripheral blood smear or we take a biopsy rather, on biopsy of a Hodgkin's lymphoma, we will find these malignant cells, and the malignant cells of Hodgkin's lymphoma have a very characteristic appearance, and this is a large lymphoid cell. Okay, this is a large lymphocyte, okay, with presence of mirror nuclei along with two prominent nucleoli, and these cells which give a owl eye appearance. These cells give which appearance? These cells usually give a owl eye appearance. These cells usually give a owl eye appearance are known as Reed-Sternberg cells or RS cells. These cells which give a owl eye appearance are known as Reed-Sternberg cells or RS cells, which are a characteristic feature of Hodgkin's lymphoma. Moving further. Then, Hodgkin's lymphoma is actually classified into various types. So, it is mainly classified as classical Hodgkin's lymphoma and second one being nodular lymphocytic predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma, that is NLPHL. Okay, so Hodgkin's lymphoma is generally classified into two types. First is classical Hodgkin's lymphoma and second is nodular lymphocytic predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma or NLPHL. First of all, talking about NLPHL, that is nodular lymphocytic predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma. Here on peripheral blood smear, rather than finding a classical RS cell, we usually find a popcorn cell. We usually find a popcorn cell, also known as lymphocyte histiocyte-like cell. We usually find a LH-like cell or a lymphocyte histiocyte-like cell, which is generally known as a popcorn cell. So NLPHL में कौन से cells? Popcorn cell. NLPHL में कौन से cells? Popcorn cells. Whereas classical Hodgkin's में कौन से cells? RS or Reed-Sternberg cells. Right? Now, this nodular lymphocytic predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma, apart from the PBS finding, apart from the biopsy finding which shows popcorn cells, it is also different in the case of markers. Okay, the markers for NLPHL would be CD20 and CD45. So NLPHL is CD20 and CD45 positive. NLPHL is CD20 and CD45 positive. Whereas on the other hand, all the classical varieties of Hodgkin's lymphoma, they would be CD15 and CD30 positive. All the classical varieties of Hodgkin's lymphoma would be CD15 and CD30 positive. Whereas NLPHL is CD20 and 45 positive. I hope this is clear. Moving further. Then usually classical Hodgkin's lymphoma has four subtypes. That is nodular sclerosing variety, mixed cellularity variety, lymphocytic rich variety and lymphocytic depleted variety. So out of all of these, the most common variety of Hodgkin's lymphoma worldwide is nodular sclerosing variety. The most common variety of Hodgkin's lymphoma worldwide is the nodular sclerosing variety. And they have also asked a question on the most common type of Hodgkin's lymphoma in India. So please remember, the most common type of Hodgkin's lymphoma in India is actually the mixed cellularity variety. The most common type of Hodgkin's lymphoma in India is the mixed cellularity variety. Whereas worst prognosis among Hodgkin's lymphoma is seen with lymphocyte depleted variety. Worst prognosis among Hodgkin's lymphoma is seen with lymphocyte depleted variety. So most common type of Hodgkin's lymphoma, nodular sclerosing. Most common type of Hodgkin's lymphoma in India, mixed cellularity. And worst prognosis is seen with lymphocyte depleted variety. Whereas best prognosis would be seen with NLPHL. Best prognosis is usually seen with a non-classical Hodgkin's lymphoma, that is nodular lymphocytic predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma, NLPHL. I hope this is fine. Then they can also ask you a question on staging. Which is the staging used for Hodgkin's lymphoma? So the staging is known as Ann Arbor staging. The staging used for Hodgkin's lymphoma is known as Ann Arbor staging. The staging used for Hodgkin's lymphoma is known as Ann Arbor staging. Moving further. Now talking about CLL, that is chronic lymphocytic leukemia. Okay, CLL is chronic lymphocytic leukemia. Right, important one. So this CLL or chronic lymphocytic leukemia, it is the most common type of leukemia. Okay, it is the most common type of leukemia in elderly. So important things that you need to remember. Most common type of leukemia in elderly is CLL. Most common type of leukemia in elderly is CLL. Most common type of leukemia in children was ALL. Most common type of leukemia in children was ALL. Whereas most common type of leukemia in adults was CML. Most common type of leukemia in adults was CML. Now the peripheral blood smear picture of CLL will usually show a very characteristic features, and those are these cells that can be seen on this PBS. These cells are actually known as parachute cells or smudge cells. These cells are usually known as parachute cells or smudge cells. So important PBS finding of CLL is parachute cells or smudge cells. Important CLL finding is parachute cells or smudge cells. Important. In CLL, usually there is only essential leukocytosis that is seen. Okay, lymphocytosis when lymphocytes are more than 5,000 per cubic millimeter. Okay, this is the only thing that you need to remember. Now moving further, talking about the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. If we talk about the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma can be either B-cell lymphomas or they can be T-cell lymphomas. They can be either B-cell lymphomas or T-cell lymphomas. As we have already discussed, B-cell lymphomas were CD19 and 20 positive. B-cell lymphomas were CD19 and 20 positive. On the other hand, T-cell lymphomas, they are generally CD3 positive. T-cell lymphomas are generally CD3 positive. You need to remember this, right? Now talking about the B-cell lymphomas first. So the most common B-cell lymphoma, or for that matter, the most common type of lymphoma overall if asked. Okay, if they ask you a question, most common type of lymphoma, the answer we have already discussed, that was diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. The most common type of lymphoma in any organ is diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. Most common type of lymphoma in any organ is diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, DLBCL. Okay, DLBCL would be mainly CD19 and CD20 positive, but apart from that, the most important or the most specific marker for diffuse large B-cell lymphoma would be BCL6. The most specific marker for diffuse large B-cell lymphoma would be BCL6. Most specific marker for DLBCL is BCL6. It is BCL6 positive. Next talking about a very important non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Questions have been repetitively asked from this, and the topic is Burkitt's lymphoma. Burkitt's lymphoma is usually common in which age group? Burkitt's lymphoma is common in children. Burkitt's lymphoma is common in children. And mainly in which race? It is mostly common in African race. Therefore, the most common variety of Burkitt's lymphoma is actually endemic Burkitt or African Burkitt. The most common type of Burkitt's lymphoma is endemic Burkitt or African Burkitt. Okay, here a 5-year-old African child will present to you with a very characteristic or the most important sign, and that is a rapidly growing jaw mass. The most important sign would be a rapidly growing jaw mass. This was a picture which came already in one of the previous examinations. Okay, rapidly growing jaw mass, a 5-year-old African child presenting to you, you can suspect Burkitt's lymphoma. Burkitt's lymphoma, again, it is commonly associated with which infection? It is commonly associated with Epstein-Barr virus. It is commonly associated with EBV or Epstein-Barr virus infection. Right? Two of the lymphomas are associated with EBV. First is Hodgkin's lymphoma and second is Burkitt's lymphoma. Next, the translocation which is usually seen in Burkitt's lymphoma, and this was a question of FMG June 2020. The translocation in Burkitt's lymphoma is translocation B looks like 8. Okay, so jaha 8 aayega, usually you can like mark Burkitt's lymphoma as an answer. Okay, please remember, if you do not know anything, mark Burkitt's lymphoma if 8 is present in translocation. So translocation 2-8 or translocation 8-14. These are usually associated with Burkitt's lymphoma. Translocation 2-8 or translocation 8-14 are generally associated with Burkitt's lymphoma. They can also ask you about the gene mutation. And the gene mutation in Burkitt's lymphoma is c-MYC gene mutation. Gene mutation in Burkitt's lymphoma is c-MYC gene mutation. Important. Translocation is 2-8 or 8-14 and gene mutation is c-MYC gene mutation. Now talking about the histopathology. If we take a biopsy from the mass and if we perform a histopathological examination, this is the picture what would be seen. Okay, there would be excessive number of small lymphocytes, and these all smaller lymphocytes will appear like a sky with these larger macrophages in between, and these larger macrophages will appear like stars. Therefore, this is known as a starry sky appearance. So biopsy of Burkitt's lymphoma gives a starry sky appearance. Biopsy of a Burkitt's lymphoma would give a starry sky appearance. A very important question, right? Please remember this. Then moving further to T cell lymphomas. There are other B cell lymphomas also, like mantle cell lymphoma, follicular cell lymphoma, but at least these two are the most important that you should remember. Next one is T cell lymphomas. T cell lymphomas would generally be CD3 positive, which is a pan T cell marker. The most important T cell lymphoma is mycosis fungoides. Most important T cell lymphoma is mycosis fungoides, which is nothing but cutaneous T cell lymphoma, which is a cutaneous T cell lymphoma, right? It involves the skin. So in mycosis fungoides, usually the cells will have cerebriform appearance. If we perform a biopsy, the cells will show cerebriform. Okay, the cells will show cerebriform or brain-like appearance. Okay, cerebriform appearance of cells are seen in mycosis fungoides. Then what can happen? From this lymphoma, the cells can disseminate. Okay, if there is dissemination of these malignant cells throughout the bloodstream, it would lead to a very important syndrome known as Sézary syndrome. When all the skin would be reddish in color, there would be erythroderma, diffuse erythroderma, and this is known as Sézary syndrome. A complication of mycosis fungoides is known as Sézary syndrome. It is due to dissemination of malignant cells. Moving further now, this is the only T cell lymphoma that you need to remember, right? Now talking about a very important malignancy, a question in every examination is must from this topic, and the topic is multiple myeloma. And the topic is multiple myeloma. Multiple myeloma is a plasma cell malignancy. What are plasma cells? Plasma cells are nothing but modified or differentiated B cells. Okay, plasma cells are nothing but modified or differentiated B cells which produce antibodies. So multiple myeloma is actually a malignancy of these plasma cells. So what are the important features that you need to know? So first of all, if we perform a bone marrow aspiration or a bone marrow tap, on a bone marrow tapping in multiple myeloma, we can find more than 30% plasma cells. We would find more than 30% plasma cells. Generally in bone marrow, plasma cells are even less than 5%. But in cases of multiple myeloma, a bone marrow tap will show plasma cells more than 30%. Plasma cells more than 30% on a bone marrow are suggestive of multiple myeloma. Next, now what happens? The rank receptors on the osteoclasts are activated in multiple myeloma, and that would lead to osteolysis, and therefore the bones will show us osteolytic regions. The bones will show us osteolytic regions, and the most common bone affected would be lumbar vertebrae. Most common bone affected is the lumbar vertebrae. Okay, important. Usually multiple myeloma, it is common in elderly patients. Okay, so therefore a multiple myeloma case would be a 60-year-old patient presenting to you with low back ache, and that low back ache is due to this osteolytic regions, which most commonly involves which bone? Lumbar vertebra. Next, if we talk about electrophoresis now, okay, what will happen now? These abnormal plasma cells or the malignant plasma cells, they will produce only light chains of antibodies, and these light chains of antibodies in serum, they will be known as M proteins. In serum, it would be known as M proteins. So on electrophoresis, it will show a M peak. Apart from the normal plasma proteins, that is albumin, alpha, beta and gamma globulins, there would be one more peak that is known as a M peak. Okay, that is known as a M peak of these abnormal M proteins. Okay, and if they are present in urine, these would be known as Benz-Jones protein. I hope this is clear to you. Then talking about the peripheral blood smear of multiple myeloma, and on which images have come earlier also. In almost alternative exams there were images. So the images, first of all, in sorry, in multiple myeloma, the peripheral blood smear, first of all, can show Rolex formation. And what do we mean by Rolex formation? It is stacking or piling of RBCs onto one another. Okay, stacking or piling of RBCs onto one another is actually known as Rolex formation. So the most important feature is Lorex formation of RBCs, stack of coin appearance of RBCs. Apart from that, the plasma cells will usually show different features. So the first feature that will show, it is a floating cell. The first one, it is the floating cell. Second one, and it is the most important, that is the intracytoplasmic inclusion body, and these cells are known as Russell bodies. Okay, intracytoplasmic body known as Russell bodies. Intracytoplasmic body is known as Russell bodies. Whereas the another image shows you intranuclear bodies known as Dutcher bodies. Intranuclear ones are known as Dutcher bodies. Intranuclear ones are known as Dutcher bodies. Whereas intracytoplasmic ones are known as Russell bodies. And the image that came in August 2020 session, this was the image, a plasma cell with grape-like inclusions. A plasma cell with grape-like inclusions is known as a Mott cell. A plasma cell with a grape-like inclusions is known as a Mott cell. So what are the important peripheral blood smear finding of multiple myeloma? First is Rolex formation or stack of coin appearance of RBC. Second is a floating cell. Third is the intracytoplasmic body, that is Russell bodies. Fourth is the intranuclear body, that is a Dutcher body. And last and most important is the grape-like inclusions of plasma cells known as Mott cells. Now the last question about multiple myeloma, that which is the best marker for multiple myeloma? And the best marker for multiple myeloma would be beta-2 microglobulin. The best marker for multiple myeloma would be beta-2 microglobulin. I hope this is fine. With this, we come to the end of this session. Thank you so much for being attentive, and let's meet in another session. I'll be starting Optha, and for the mnemonics of hypersensitivity and one more important topic of immunology, that is usually graft rejection. So you need to know the hyperacute, acute and chronic graft rejection and the types of hypersensitivity. Those two slides I'll add now itself, and then I'll share this PPT. Then I'll share this PDF on our Telegram group of AFMG, that is AFMG for FMG. You can definitely attend all the AFMG sessions, rapid revision sessions, and the revised program also. So feel free to contact the AFMG office. Thank you so much, and let's meet in another session. Till then, goodbye and good luck. Keep reading hard. Okay, so let's meet.